Okay, hey everyone. So it's a new match of the Champions Chess League. This time Group D between Martyna Starosta and Daniel Compel from Slovakia.
Yeah, today we have two matches. We have first of all the match between Daniel Compel and Starosta, as you said, and then later on tonight we have Swedish Anton Frank playing top-rated in Group D,
Yeah, Group D.
Vladimir Boshnika. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the match today. They're going to be starting at 17:15. Both pretty even players. What are your expectations?
I'm very uncertain how this is going to pan out. You see, they are very like equal rated players. I think both of them are around 2200. So yeah, we'll see. Uh, yeah, they should challenge each other in about 5 minutes. So
Yeah,
there's still some time left. We're a bit early.
We're a bit early. We need to have some extra time if any technical difficulties arrive. But today it was smooth sailing. So, Vidar, if you have to make a prediction, what is your prediction?
Um, actually, I'm very not sure. So far, we haven't had a single draw in any of the matches. The closest was probably between who was it? William against Adrian. It was 4.5 to 3.5, with the last game decided by Adrian winning. But yeah, maybe this will be the first. Who knows? I can check. I posted on Instagram what people predicted, and the majority actually believes in Daniel Compel. Well, a lot of our followers are actually from Slovakia, so perhaps a little bit biased. But yeah, it will be interesting. How about you?
Yeah, I'm not really certain either. I think if we think back to the last match where these players played, Daniel played obviously the favorite from this group, Bosnik, and if I remember correctly, he did struggle quite badly in that match. But mainly I think because of pretty great play from Bosnik and not that Daniel played bad. And Martina, she played against our friend Anton Frank,
Yeah.
and yeah, that was an exciting match. I kind of expected her to beat him a bit more convincingly than she did, but in the end she got there, and in Blitz everything is.
But also, I feel like this group is very even in a sense because I mean Anton showed quite an even performance against Martina as well. It was very close, almost a 4-4 draw in the last match, but very dramatic turn of events. Martina won 5-3, which I guess she deserved based on the result in the what was it, sixth match when she lost on time in a completely winning position. Uh, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm also excited to see Daniel play today because I remember that I was somewhat impressed with his play against Vladimir last time, but he played a very strong player in Vladimir Bosnicki, and I don't recall exactly what the score was in that game. I don't know.
I think it was. Oh, it was kind of funny because it was actually the score was 4-2, and then Bosnishka, who had the 4 points, offered a draw like as a joke. But Daniel forgot that he would lose if he took the draw, but he had like a slightly worse position, so he just took the draw.
Right.
And they realized right afterwards.
Yeah,
so
I remember that.
That was kind of unfortunate.
Yeah. Um. Yeah.
All right. So
about 3 minutes left till this first match of the night starts. Um. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have anything to add about this match?
I'm not sure. Group D hasn't had that many matches yet. So far, we've still got 4 more matches in this group compared to the other groups where we have like 4 in total.
Yeah, that's true. This group has not played a lot
yet. Yeah, but I do think it is going to be one of the most exciting groups because I'm not sure who's like what the end result will be. Who's gonna get first, second, third? Like It could
Yeah,
be anyone.
I feel like Vladimir Vosnicki is definitely the best player in this group, but apart from him, I think
Yeah,
everybody are around equal, and it will be very exciting to see. I think also the player who wins this match
yeah,
is probably quite likely to finish second or even first if Vladimir were
yeah.
to drop a point.
But we also have to remember, though Vladimir's an extremely good player. I mean, he's 2400 like FIDE. I do think he's a bit weaker in the blitz aspect. I mean, I played him in Title Tuesday actually last Tuesday, and though I played really like he didn't play that good, I played even more horribly. I mean, I got a good position, even a winning position, and then I lost. So although I do think he's still probably the strongest player in the group. Uh, but yeah.
We should check if they started yet. The time is
Of course. Right. So here we should. Oh, we're already on the player profile. Right. So we still haven't started yet.
yeah, they're most likely going to start in just a minute. I we can just remind you quickly that right now we have the match between Martyna Starosta and Vladimir no and Daniel Compel, and then later tonight at 7 p.m. we have Anton Frank taking on the favorite Vladimir Bosnicki. So two matches today, and then we're getting somewhat closer to the playoff mark. But I think they are going to be starting now in any second, so we should probably
Yeah,
yeah, they have
they've
started.
started. All right. Let's just go to this. Okay, wait. Right.
Oh, that's an issue.
Oh, that's. Let me just. This maybe. Hmm. Uh. Whoa. That's. Wait. I don't know why we didn't check this
Yeah,
earlier.
we should have checked that earlier.
Okay, I think it's. I have to probably. Whoa, that's wasn't intentional. Right.
Yeah, so we're having a bit of an issue with the cameras.
No, it's fine. I fixed it. I think. Right. So they have this variation. And
We should also
let's go back.
flip the board, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
So we have. Let's go Sicilian, bishop g5. Right. So Daniel seems to be quite familiar with this, considering the time usage. Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, so we have a classical Sicilian here with an early exchange on c6. That's a bit, and then queen d3. That's okay, but played very quickly and then followed by rook d1. This is extremely strange stuff from white. I have not ever seen this setup. I mean, the main theoretical line is of course the move f4 here.
Yeah, which is a very crazy position sometimes occurring, and also you can. I mean,
but also I think knight c6 is, I think it's a move for sure, and then you can go either queen d2 or queen d3, but I haven't seen usually you take the opportunity to castle long here,
yeah.
with some ideas of e5, but it's very strange stuff from white here. I think the pieces are a bit strange.
Yeah, I guess Martina is trying for a little bit more of a timid approach, going short castle, but now allowing black to take on b2, even though I'm not sure if that's very good because of potential rook b1 ideas.
Yeah, taking such a pawn is always risky. If I were black here, I would just go for the move pawn to a5, potentially just getting ready to play bishop to a6. I think that would be a very logical approach. Usually, the point of playing the queen to d3 this early is to be able to bring it to g3 at some point. Otherwise, the queen is just better on d2. But in this position, I mean, the move queen g3 is just never possible. So I feel like the white pieces are a little bit misplaced here. But that being said, of course, it's just a game, and anything can happen.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if we were looking at Martina's last match, Blitz is quite unpredictable, to say the least, and we'll see. So
I think it's a bit concerning to spend this much time on move 11 though.
yeah.
And he does go for a5 as I suggested. I feel like this is the most natural. You want to go with this bishop to a6, after which the queen is gonna be forced to just go back to d2.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't make any sense why you would place it on d3. I think also black is going to be aiming for this move d5, of course, in the long term.
So white does take on f6, noting that if you take by the bishop, suddenly d6 is hanging. So I would guess pawn takes makes the most sense. Yeah. So now, obviously, black has the bishop pair, but black is not really going to be able to castle safely, at least.
On the other hand,
But-
white is not gonna castle
Yeah, exactly.
either
That was
because
what
of
I was
bishop
thinking
a6.
now.
But I guess the point is that if bishop a6, she wants to go queen h3, pressuring e6 because of this pin. I like the move bishop h5. I think a typical idea for black is actually, if you were to play something else here, a typical idea for black is to play h5 himself.
Yeah, of course.
To stop that. But now white gets the bishop to h5. Black brings the rook to g8.
Obviously, you can't really defend the pawn on g2 by castling because bishop a6 would pin the queen to the rook. So
yeah, exactly. And you also got to remember that this pawn is constantly under fire. If you were to move the queen to h3 here, which is what you would like to do, I think black is going to take this pawn and start taking other pawns as well, potentially.
Yeah.
That being said, queen h3 is interesting because it threatens sort of to castle. She goes queen f3 instead. I think I don't see why you wouldn't go to h3. Maybe she was afraid of e5 ideas. That could be actually.
But even is that really a threat to castle there? I mean, maybe, sure.
Yeah, I mean this pawn is hanging now as well.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no big difference, but I think if you do take it, white will maybe castle. So I would prefer to start with bishop a6. But now we can see that if the queen were on h3, you could have taken the pawn on the e6 square. So
I could. I mean, the queen on f3 is also pressuring f7 in a way that you might be able to go the e5 break, and you also open up the long diagonal, so you're putting pressure on c6. But I don't think that really.
Yeah,
helps.
and also you're giving yourself a square here, but probably d takes an f5, and it's a bit unclear. Very interesting though that they've played 14 moves and both of them are already down to 40 seconds. This seems like not the greatest strategy in Blitz, but if both players have the same strategy, then, well, I mean, it's more exciting for us. So
okay, 92, preparing to castle.
And also this knight could
go to d4.
Yeah.
d6, of course. Right.
But obviously now the question is what happens if I go pawn grabbing with queen takes pawn on b2, followed by perhaps queen takes pawn on c2. Queen b4 played by Daniel. I'm not sure why. He provokes c3 in order to make it more difficult to castle, perhaps. Knight d4. So threatening now obviously this pawn and also that pawn. So Compel defends the e6 pawn but gives up c6, after which this bishop could fall, which would be bad news for black's king perhaps, but the king is still pretty safe. And
yeah, I mean,
rook c8,
the king is safe on e7, and you've got these rook takes g2 ideas even at some position, but the h5
yeah, I was gonna say this, e5 is kind of the key move, but problem is the queen controls b7, so you'd love to play queen to b7 check here, but
right. So now,
she's preparing for queen b7.
Is this going to be a perpetual?
No, I think he's gonna choose another move here. Yeah, and then queen b6.
Right. You're still not able to castle here as white.
And black is ready to start.
Whoa. Rook d7 is the idea, but I'm not sure. Is this really gonna work? I mean, you've got queen b1. Oh, whoa! Why didn't he go king 8? Oh my god, what happened? So here you have to go king 8, and I thought, okay, we have to go to the next game. Right.
Wow.
That was surprising, actually.
Yeah, that was a really surprise. I didn't even. What happened there? Okay, so we have a Blumenfeld gambit.
I have not seen Martyna play this. Right.
I have not seen anyone play this.
I mean,
Almost.
do you remember the game between? I mean, to be fair, that wasn't really a Blumenfeld, but Jon against Dominic was actually a Blumenfeld, where Dominic won quite.
Is it in this position that I can play some move like e4?
I don't know.
Or is that no? I think that's kind of a reverse Blumenfeld when the knight is already on. Yeah, I think I'm confusing this. I have no idea about what is going on in these
Right.
positions. So
Usually I play an early g3, so Blumenfeld isn't really an option there.
oh, you mean you play g3 here?
Exactly. So on c5, d5, if you play b5, I can go, bishop g2 or take on e6 and then bishop g2. And that's usually quite good for white.
e3 feels a bit passive to me. I mean, it feels like taking this much time to play passively like this is not exactly the way to go about this.
I'd be very happy with my position if I
Martyna
was
plays extremely quickly. I think she's definitely looked at this, and obviously having that last victory that she has, I think perhaps quite bad news for Daniel here. He better win this game, because if not, then he will be in some serious psychological issues for the rest of the match, because obviously being down 2-0 is never fun, especially when you lost your first and only match played so far. So I think this is a crucial game for him, and to spend half your time before move 10 is maybe not the greatest strategy. And you can see in this game,
he's
Starosta has not done that.
Considering e4 here, trying to open up the dark square bishop, but I'm not sure if that's.
I mean,
working.
I don't think that's ever worked when you've played this passively.
Precisely.
I like this move though, preventing queen g6, which feels like a natural way to play. I wonder if black should try to start something on the queen side with a6, or if you can just try to go forward with e5 here and try to grab space with e4. She plays e5, and now the question is, of course, can I play e4, or is that not possible?
Alright, so on e4, let's say Is it possible to take with the knight, do you think? And then knight takes bishop f5. Oh wait, d6 is hanging. Right. Yeah. So, and if pawn takes e4, knight takes bishop f5, maybe we can take on d6.
Pawn is e4, you could also go knight g5 if you want to. Eyeballing some bishop c4 ideas.
Are we expecting a d4 here, perhaps?
I think d4, bishop c4 is very much to Daniel's liking. Yeah. I think you should try. If you don't have a reply here, I think you should go for something like maybe bishop b7. Okay, she plays d4, but that's a very committal move, because now the bishop is not really great, and Daniel's king is sort of surviving. Actually, I like this move. That's sort of a Petrosian style move. I guess some people have seen the game between Petrosian and someone in.
But still, there's a lot of pressure now, because g2 and e4 is under severe pressure. Yeah,
that's the issue. I would have played bishop c4 followed by knight d5 or something if I were white.
White was already quite passive, and now you're going back to b1. Position is way too dynamic. In my
positionally,
opinion.
It's a very great idea in order to try to get the knight here, but it feels like, and also maybe if you had castled, this would have been fine, but you've maybe lost a bit too much time here, and that could hurt you. That being said, you could go for castlings now, and this pawn is probably not eatable because of such an idea. Yeah. But even that is scary because of bishop f5, and the initiative is sort of serious. But also, defending this with 20 seconds against 2 minutes is not going to be an easy task. And okay, so he's using the idea that I was talking about, that if this is now taken, I think bishop to c4 and bishop to d5, and white will win the game.
But there's also knight f2, but I don't think that's good enough for black.
It could be good enough, but I think it would be very stupid to go for such a way of playing when you have such a good position. I think
Queen f7 would run into perhaps bishop c4 ideas, although there is bishop e6, so it's not losing immediately.
But training those bishops is a huge thing for white. Then you could castle, and that would be really good news. So actually, I like this knight h4 move. Probably you have to go for the line you said with.
But then what do you do? Queen takes, knight takes, bishop c4, king h8, bishop d5,
and then you take
knight f2. Alright, so queen e8.
brings it
I
back.
think that's also quite a good idea because considering the time, you don't want to exchange pieces and simplify the position.
But it also kind of gives Daniel a move to breathe and a very easy, straightforward plan. Now he can bring the knight to f5, perhaps, getting a tempo on the bishop here. He could consider the move f3, just stabilizing the position. I dislike that move. I don't get what that is about. I feel like this knight is going to f5, this pawn is going to f3, this knight is going to c4, and you're sort of consolidating. This is a bit too passive in my opinion. And I like this move, knight h5 from Martyna. She's bringing the knight to f4.
Knight c4 is pretty much forced, I guess.
But it's too slow, like, your pieces don't make sense. I feel like this is too slow indeed. Although the bishop here is also a bit weird. The bishop was better on c8.
But it's also pressuring c4. I mean...
Yeah, it's that's pressure. g1, wow. That's a sign that things have not gone so great for her. I wonder if he's gonna just cast along now and say...
c4 is hanging though.
e4 is hanging.
I mean e4, I meant.
Right. That could be an issue.
Yeah, so bishop takes... or a6.
Right. Is giving back the pawn. But having e5...
Oh, I thought you'd take with the queen, though. Oh, that's a bit tricky. Knight f3, you can take on f3.
Bishop c4 played.
But can you just go king h8? No?
Yeah.
And knight f7 doesn't work, as you can just take with the rook.
But he's... Okay, yeah, this is really big issues for white. Because nothing... I mean, you gotta break the pin, but the knight is hanging.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the game is over. 2-0 Martyna. That's really, really bad news for...
Flip the board.
Yeah. That's really bad news for Daniel. And I guess they're going for a classical Sicilian yet again.
Daniel was pretty happy with his position, I suppose. And we'll see what Martyna does now. Will she go for bishop g5 again?
I mean, bishop g5 is really the most critical try against this variation. But yeah, this is sort of something I was expecting. This is of course the main theoretical line. And now bishop d7. I know, for example, that bishop e7 here is recommended by I can't remember his name, but the same guy you have a Catalan course on.
Oh, Srinath.
Yeah, he recommends bishop e7 in that position, and this is actually a transposition to that course. And here the point is that if you play bishop f6, g takes f6 is going to be the recapture here. And the point was also that if e5 here, you can answer that with b4.
Yes.
Which is really important.
So this is called the Rouser, I'm pretty sure. What will we see now?
Yeah, here I think the move is something like queen to b6, preparing long castles. H5 is also an idea you should always be on the lookout for to prevent ideas like queen to h6, which can be not maybe the end of the world, but they could be a bit annoying sometimes, just trying to put a bit of a freeze on the king side here. Obviously, white is trying to put some pressure here, and right, she has played the move queen h6, but it feels a bit too early to make such a move. I think one plan for white here as well is to bring a bishop to h3 in order to put pressure on e6.
I mean, queen h6 doesn't really achieve anything unless like it's unable to long castle, I guess. So I'm not
well, I mean,
sure
it is a move that you quite often play, and she plays now the idea of g3, which I was just talking about as well. It is an idea, that's why black tends to go h5, but as far as I recall, I think queen h6 now could be a bit early because the queen does go away from the queens, and you could see, for example, an idea like king to b8, rook to c8, knight can go to e5, and you can see some pressure on the queen side. I'm assuming that Daniel is gonna go for such a plan, either knight e5 or maybe just king b8. He plays b4. I like that move too, because you have to go for something on the queen side with the king being here.
And where's the knight gonna go now? To a4, or is he gonna go e2?
I suppose it's gonna go to e2 and then to d4, trying to reactivate itself in the center. But black does have some initiative here on the queen side. I like also this plan of king b8, rook c8. It's a very typical plan. Um, also, you could throw in a move like Queen A5, but White is gonna be happy to play King B1, Knight C1. So I feel like King B8 is the way to go here for sure. Um, I don't know. I don't really have such a great understanding of these middle game positions. They're extremely complicated, and I mean, I think this is a good plan. I think it could always be a good move to play knight e5, and for sure with the queen being somewhat stuck on h6, you should do something towards the white king. But that being said, another move you could consider here is closing the center with e5, as this knight has gone away. I see no real reason why you would play it now because there's no real pressure on e6, but that could be a long term idea if the pressure here gets overwhelming. He plays knight e5
Will
immediately.
We maybe see knight e4 trying to put pressure on e6. He does take immediately.
That's a bit of a strange move because now the knight on e2 is very dead.
Exactly.
So that's positionally extremely risky, but I'm assuming that she's trying to argue that there could be some tactical ideas. But for example, look at this bishop on f1. It's knight. I mean, there are a lot of pieces here that you gotta address.
It's almost like you want to play king b1, knight c1 just to open up, but that's clearly not something that would be ideal for white. So we got bishop h3, the idea of pressurizing on e6, but it's quite heavily defended now, even with the queen. So
yeah, exactly. And
but also you might have,
you could look out for such an idea now, asking this knight, what do you do? It's not an easy question to answer actually, because that knight can't really move forward.
Oh.
I'm very intrigued to see what Martyna would play on bishop b5 here, because what do you do on that move?
That's a good question.
The bishop is really active there. There's no real pressure on e6.
You might just go for some rook e1 stuff, but even
but
then,
rook e1, you gotta
takes d1,
yeah, exactly.
king takes,
and then you bring the next rook, and then you bring the queen to f2, and then
it does take.
But I seriously dislike this move because you're allowing white to bring his. I'm assuming the idea is that he wants to go for a pawn with queen f2.
Oh yeah, right.
But that feels not like the greatest idea to me. I seriously dislike it. I think bishop b5 was very strong here.
But also after takes, pawn takes. Takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, queen f2. How do you defend the knight?
Well, that could be a bit of an issue. Actually, I guess you gotta go rook d2.
Yeah,
but queen h5. Actually, queen h5 is a very good move.
I didn't even see that.
No, me neither. And I doubt Daniel did either, because you would not go for that.
Exactly. And also f7 is under pressure now, so we would see maybe a knight c1 followed by.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a horrible trading this light square bishop for the black square bishop, because this one is a really poor piece, and now black's king is the one that's in trouble. White is gonna bring the knight to c1, and black's king is just so open, and the queen is sort of finding its way back. You gotta keep the queen on e3. The pawns are weak. I think knight c1 is a massive advantage for white. Queen g4 as well. You're trying to bring the queen to c4. Yeah, this was not the way to go for black.
Right. So obviously black cannot defend the pawn by playing rook d7 because the rook is.
And also this one is hanging with a tempo now, so
exactly.
And now the rook is joining in, and yeah, everything has gone wrong for Daniel here.
Now queen takes rook c7, rook d7, or just queen d5.
Queen d5, and now knight c1. This is very good because the knight is such a good piece here, protecting.
Now take on b2 is a possibility. No.
You gotta think about those ideas. But now he just gave Martyna a chance to go into a rook endgame, which should be winning for her because 2 pawns up. The only issue here is if you allow the black rook too much of activity. I think b3 should be considered. Yes. Black is gonna have to take a timeout to play the move a5, but now you're ready to
h4, g4 also.
Or rook f2 is also a move, and now she's trying to break up. I like this idea of bringing the king. You gotta get the king active. That's your only chance. take this, bring the rook to e3, bring the king to. But the problem is you bring the king here, there's rook check,
and then go.
and you're forced back.
Yeah.
So h4. He's trying his best here. I like this idea because if g takes h4, rook h3, that could very well be drawn.
Exactly.
Because of the activity of the black rook. But on the other hand, I mean, I guess g4 is the way to go because rook h3, there's. Oh, never mind then.
There are drawing chances.
I think this one could be a draw. I think g4 was a clear win with the idea of g5 and f6. Now I think this could very well be close to a draw. Very close to a draw because
it's a very good technique by Daniel, actually.
Actually, I think. Yeah, okay, never mind. Yeah, I think this could be very close to a draw. And now they're just gonna repeat moves, it seems.
Yeah.
I think this is a draw because the king and the rook, they're too active.
That's a smart move though, because you can't take on b3.
Well,
because
you can take on taking a3, but you don't have to. You can go rook c3 also.
Right.
And now you can just take this freely, I think. Or you could go back. Yeah, he goes back. He's just arguing that I don't need the pawn, I just need the activity.
What about king e2? Okay,
they just,
it's a draw.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think for sure that the move g4 gave Martyna extremely good winning chances in that position, but I guess it wasn't meant to be. And I feel like it was a bit fair that Daniel managed to draw there. I think his opening play was exceptional, and I think he got a big advantage with black. And
now he's playing the same, but that's white.
Yeah, but this is so far is sort of a knight or reversed.
Yeah, but that's quite decent for white often. I mean, or I guess knight b6.
I mean, the question is always how do you want to approach this? I feel like what she's done is what I would have done as well. I think I would have just brought the knight here. I would have played g6, bishop g7, and I would have said that. Okay, never mind. She goes knight g6 instead.
Okay, so usually you.
I suppose you just castle here. I'm not really sure where this knight is going.
Because if he wanted to go to f4, he could have gone there immediately, no?
Yeah, that's also that's very true. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
But I thought also if you go here, I can always take it and play d4, and then I should have a good position. Maybe not as much now because I wasted a tempo on bishop e3, but you know. So Daniel is just going for a classical knight type of setup. I kind of dislike knight d2 though because I feel like you have such a strong chance to play d4 here. I feel like I would have just castled, kept my option for d4. But apparently he's not in the mood for d4, but he's trying something else. But I feel like now black should be able to play a move like f6, and yeah, I don't know. Maybe though you could
f6. What about?
Yeah, f5 is f5 is the idea obviously, and I like this knight here because I immediately thought that knight c4 attacks the pawn.
Yeah.
Because the knight is never on g6 in these positions. Exactly. But yeah, now we see he's wasting 2 tempos to get the knight to b3. He could have just played it to c3 and played d4.
Yeah.
And so the knight is just bad here.
Now we've got the f5 break.
And I think black is just already better. I think
so f4 maybe, but then bishop c5.
Yeah, the idea is always to go bishop c5 here. But the knight on b3 is such a weird piece. I think actually move like a5 could be a good idea. Just asking that knight, what are you gonna do here? Because if it ever were to move to c5, black goes f4, and then black goes either b6 or bishop g4, trying to take control over the d4 square, and it's not easy here to be white. I really like the move a5 here from black. But there are also obviously other possibilities. You could play f4. You could move the king to the corner, bishop to e6. It's easy to play black here for sure.
Yeah. Bishop c6 would run into knight c5, I guess.
Yeah, that would probably not be the greatest move. I'm not sure about that because you do open the bishop for the c4 square. Although I guess the argument for it is that the knight is so weird on b3. Okay, clearly I do not understand this structure because that move feels weird.
I mean, the thing is you're threatening on g2. So
yeah, but I feel like you're gonna have to play it there and then you're gonna have to cast it. I thought that was the way to approach it, but
that is a bit scary.
No, I
I'm not sure.
also I thought e takes f4 was definitely an option, but okay, rook takes f4 played. I'm assuming that she's trying here to. She's saying that I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna chase the knight down, and I'm gonna get d4.
Yeah, and what is the knight on b3 doing? I mean,
yeah, it's a horrible piece. I think moving the knight there was a terrible decision for sure.
But also now, I mean,
but now you can see why you should not take on e4 because this bishop is suddenly like it was such a horrible. If you go back a couple of moves ago, it's not a horrible piece, but it doesn't have a future for now. And now you take here, and all of a sudden the bishop is the best piece on the board, and this bishop is pretty passive.
Yeah, I mean, you could even try to gain a pawn here by taking on c6, even though I would probably not do that because you're opening up.
Yeah, I think
you're also exchanging one of your best pieces.
But I like this move, rook d1. You're just saying, okay, what are you gonna do about that? There's always gonna be some issues here, and I like this move too, though, bishop g4, because the bishop has moved away. So,
are we expecting maybe some sort of, I mean, knight c5?
Maybe you should exchange this knight now because knight could come to d4 in some positions, and I'm a bit worried about that. And obviously, bishop f3 or rook f3 are both serious threats at the moment. Yeah. You could go rook d3 though. That would be a way to try to keep it.
That, but I don't know. Does it work?
But 97 would be a bit annoying, I think. I feel like you should take this now. Black could throw in bishop f3. Actually, yeah, black is just good here. Rook d1 was maybe not as good as I thought because it sort of walks into the spin. You would love to play knight to d2, but knight to d4 is an issue.
Is it though? Oh yeah, of course, because you're threatening the queen when you take on d1, so you don't have these intermediate moves with knight e6.
Exactly, and Daniel
does go there anyway.
D2.
But I guess on knight d4 you're just gonna go like queen d3, and you're kind of threatening it.
But c6 feels like you're kind of stepping in the wrong direction there.
Yeah,
for sure. Knight d4 played. Can you do something? I don't think you can.
No.
Can you give up an exchange somehow? No, it doesn't really work because
you have to defend the f3 knight, right?
While I mean, if you gotta do that, then you play here. But after c6, I think black just got everything she wanted here.
Of course.
And yeah, white is definitely under
also,
severe
queen
pressure.
c3 is perhaps kind of an inaccurate move because when you take on d4 there, the pawn is gonna defend. But if this is,
I think she's gonna play perhaps rook takes f3. Just saying that.
But then in that case, white can often just sacrifice the rook on d4 as well.
So yeah, I'm not saying it's a good move. I'm saying I think there's a chance she might do it.
Yeah, but also knight takes pawn takes queen f6, and suddenly how are you gonna defend f3? I mean, rook d3, rook f8. You're gonna have to go like king e2
go for that. She plays in such a way, queen f6.
And also c6 will
but
probably be a move soon.
Is it really that horrible to just defend the pawn like this?
Maybe not.
Like, of course, you can play c6. The bishop is gonna go to a2.
Black is always going to be the one pressuring here.
Perhaps an idea here for black could be to bring the bishop. Yeah, she's doing that. Bring the bishop here and then use the queen to harass over here.
Exactly.
And she's doing exactly that. I love that idea. It's a great idea, I think. Oh, and bishop d4. What a maneuver! Actually, this bishop is fantastic. And now perhaps rook takes d4 could be an idea, but
does it work?
No. Rook takes f3 does work though.
Oh right.
Perhaps, but there was rook e3 in the end, so maybe it doesn't.
Okay.
There's no way that she's repeating this, but
no, I don't think so.
Or maybe she does because she just feels like she's gonna win the match with it.
Queen h5 is maybe a move. Okay, so she does sacrifice. Oh, that's interesting.
But that doesn't work. Or actually h3 is hanging.
Oh, I think that's a really nice tactic if it works.
But king here. Oh.
Oh right, that's also a move. But now I think you're getting mated. Queen g. Oh wait, there's a mate on d8 as well. You have to look
that's an issue, and on g8.
Yeah. Oh yeah, g8. Whoa.
Oh, but now she's close to mating. But king b1, and if you check, there's rook d1.
He's making a comeback. That was a mistake too.
Yeah, this is losing.
And also there's okay, she defended in the last second, but that's not good enough, I don't think.
Now your piece done, but obviously there's such time issues, such time pressure here. She allows queen takes queen.
Yeah.
But he
What?
avoids it.
Okay then.
Just running rook f1. I feel like there's gonna be at least one more twist in this. Okay,
Rook
no, rook
f1.
f1 is...
No? Okay.
Now rook f1.
Nope.
h4. So giving up that pawn for nothing, that's not a...
Okay, they are in panic mode right now. I mean...
I definitely think there's gonna be at least one more twist in this game. But I'm not sure how many more.
Bishop b6 makes sense. You want to go to f5,
Yeah,
try
that
to
would
utilize
be
these light square weaknesses.
But now black can use her rook.
But, I mean, rook g6 here, queen g6,
Queen
queen
h5, I
h5
think, is the
also.
way.
And I'll just take with the rook, should be
But
quite
the
easy.
thing is, it's equal material.
Oh, right, because the...
Because she has so many pawns.
Oh,
But
you're kind of mating here, Swart, though.
yeah, I think you should have traded rooks.
Yeah, I agree.
I think there was perhaps some drawing chance there, but
with the time, you know.
But now, okay, king
Okay.
d2 now is
It's
game
over.
over. Will he find king d2? Yeah,
Yeah.
he plays king d2, and that's checkmate.
Ooh, this is exciting though. It's
Yeah,
quite close.
now it's very exciting. I think that was not good for Martyna to lose that
Yeah,
match.
true.
Such a good position, and Daniel obviously he drew from a losing position. He won from a losing position, and now she's not going for any type of classical Sicilians anymore. But she's instead saying that I'm going to play the delayed Alapin here. Do you know anything about this line?
I just know that you cannot take on e4 early because there's queen a4.
Yeah,
So-
that's everything I know as well. But it feels like white has gotten... I mean, white is not worse. Black is not worse.
Yeah.
But both players seem to be somewhat familiar with what's going on here. Again, an exchange here, but this time I feel like it's a good exchange because the bishop here is now... I think this structure should benefit white.
It's kind of a King's Indian, but without the c pawns. It's interesting.
Yeah, I feel like being a King's Indian player myself, I would not be happy here with black. I think this is very comfortable for white.
Yeah. Now you cannot take with a queen. You're gonna have to take with a bishop, I think, because
I think you take with the knight.
yeah, and obviously if you take on d8, take on e5. There's knight takes e4, I think. So.
But still, this square is such a hole, and this bishop is so horrible.
Exactly. That's why you usually go c6 on the King's Indian, but now there is no c pawn, so that's kind of an issue.
Yeah, usually in exchange variation of the King's Indian, so to say, there's a pawn on c6 and there's a pawn on c4, or at least there's a pawn on c7 and a pawn on c4, and there black has this kind of positional advantage that he can play the move c6, plugging this hole, but white pawn is on c4. This time, but white has for compensation, white has active pieces. This time, white has active pieces, and black does not have the option to play c6, which is bad news for him. I think for sure. I think Martyna is gonna be pressuring here, and I think she needs a win because obviously, if she were to lose this game, the match is all of a sudden tied from a situation where she had all the chances.
Yeah,
and that's gonna that would be a bit worrying for her. I think, especially remembering her last match, she had a comfortable lead. She screwed up a bit, and she barely got by. She's definitely not gonna want to repeat that experience.
right. Okay, so taking on b7 would be kind of a poison pawn because there's rook b8 followed by rook takes b2.
But it's
most
not
likely.
It's not that poison because you
Yeah.
have the move queen to c6, so you should obviously bring that rook.
Yeah, but then also I don't know.
I like this. I mean, in blitz chess, there's no reason to take such pawns. Just move your pieces into the game. Eyeball knight d5.
Yeah. And also, kind of the idea with a6 potentially being b5, I don't think is very good here because you can take maybe on e5, or do you open up the g7 bishop too much then?
Yeah, I think taking this pawn is it's a risky decision for sure because you do allow this bishop into the game.
Yeah, but you obviously cannot take on e4 here because rook takes, and you're defending the knight, so you're gonna have to go somewhere like knight h5.
I think you go knight h5, but I feel like because of the fact that white is so well developed, I think opening this bishop is just not really enough. Like, if you could imagine the knight coming here, you could see knight c6 followed by knight d5. And, I mean, those knights are just... For example, imagine knight h5, knight c6, queen b6, knight d5.
Yeah,
the knights are just untouchable because of the fork on e7.
exactly.
That would be really, really bad news. That being said, how do you handle this? Because also, actually, and something else that I just noted, knight h5 fast immediately to knight takes g6.
Oh, right.
So,
It's also a threat right now, by the way, to take on g6. So you're gonna have to address that. You cannot go king h7 because then f7.
hold on, that's an interesting.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, but I thought knight d5 maybe, and then if knight takes, you can take with the pawn.
Or the rook is
Oh
more
yeah, the rook,
convincing
of course.
probably. But yeah, I mean you gotta go knight. You have also done the move knight c6.
Right, that's also a good move, I think, because on queen b6, as mentioned, maybe you have knight d5, and if knight takes d5,
You could also just take the pawn.
oh right,
Knight c4 played.
that's probably not a bad move either.
It looks like black is in a lot of trouble here. You could try to switch to a kingside mating attack, but I doubt that would work. Queen c5 played, now knight goes to d5. Very strong knight. The b4 pawn is dropping. White is already one pawn up. Bad news for black. I presume that you exchange that and you drop the queen back, and you say that if I take on b4, you try to bring the rook to b8, you try to get some pressure here, but
You can also just defend as you did now.
okay, a5 played. I mean, I guess he will just try to hold on,
yeah,
for as long as he can, because obviously once we get into time pressure, anything can happen. We know that. But the question is here: can you?
I would try to go rook d8 here as black, rook a d8 probably, and then potentially look for knight e4, I guess.
I would honestly just play knight d5 back here. She doesn't do that. I thought that was a pretty dangerous move, but I'm sure this is also quite good.
e5, rook d5, something like that.
Yeah, e5 played.
Flipped more. What the fuck? What happened with the board?
Yeah, that's a bit strange. I should reload it. That happens sometimes when you're...
Okay, I have never noticed that.
When you disconnect, sometimes the board just changes.
That's kind of strange.
Okay, I guess we get to live with this board.
No, we can fix
No.
it, right? Just go into one of the profiles and then press watch.
Oh, it
That
works.
should work. And now flip
Okay.
the board.
So we entered time trouble, and black is sort of getting closer to being okay. And now I think maybe he is okay if he takes the pawn.
Right. I mean, you're gonna have to look out for e6 stuff, but that should maybe be fine.
Yeah, I think there's no real attack with such a nice bishop. Although taking that pawn might have been a bit of a mistake, because now you sort of open up an avenue. But you also gotta remember, this passed pawn is very, very dangerous.
I would not exchange queens here. I would probably go perhaps
Queen to g4 is
queen g4 or queen e4. Now b3, I feel like it's kind of a must. And if you exchange queens now, I was expecting maybe queen takes a4.
Yeah, I was also expecting that, but now I think queen c4 is winning for white probably.
Because
although there is rook fc8.
And also, what about b2?
Yeah, b2 rook takes e6 is a major issue. I thought he's just gonna play queen f7. He's gonna say that rook f8 is a big threat, and you're somewhat tangled up. Rook f8 is gonna be played. Rook c1 is a big threat now.
Right. Rook e7.
But now rook c1. And queen takes e7, I think. Or rook takes...
queen e7, I think that should be winning, right?
You do that, and you take this. Yeah, he does that.
Will this be a...
And now queen can give a check, but king is super safe in the corner. And the threat is rook e1 followed by b1, and that is not a savable.
This looks over. Wow, this is gonna be a 2.5, 2.5.
Yeah, what a comeback. And again, he wins from a horrible position, from a totally lost position, I think. He just somehow turns it around.
Wow.
And now it's a tie. And Daniel has the white pieces. Really tough news for Martyna. It's clear that she has had definitely moments of showing her being the better player, but now in the crucial moments when you're starting to tilt a little bit, things are not clicking, and Daniel has been ruthless
Yeah.
from these positions.
So we've got another English, and we have this sort of, I'm not sure what to call it. Called a
Yeah.
Rubinstein variation.
A normal,
Apparently.
yeah, a normal symmetrical
Yeah.
English.
Oh, I think she played this against Tiger Hillar Persson in the Riltan Cup, but she got quite convincingly destroyed, which is perhaps not that weird considering it's a 2500 GM. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I've also been destroyed by him
Yeah,
a couple of times.
me
I
too.
know how it feels. I feel like this is a very pivotal game. I think the player who wins this is winning the match, because it's sort of like if Daniel wins, you do not come back from that. I think it's incredibly tough to come back from being 2-0 up, 2.5 versus a half, and having just a winning position, and then to go from having 2.5, 3.5. I think that's very difficult to come back from. And if Martyna wins this, perhaps she will feel a little bit more encouraged. Perhaps she feels like, okay, now I'm back in the zone, and now I can take this match home. So I think winning this game is very important for both the players. And Martyna goes extremely aggressively, as she tends to do. I would have tried to keep a bit more control here with the move f6, but f5 played. It has obviously the advantage of trying to advance over on here, but leave this pawn a bit weak. For example, a move like rook c1 and then eyeballing knight a4 could be a potential.
Yeah, c5 is kind of a weakness in a sense because you want to go b6 and protect it, but you can't really do that because of knight. Yeah, you're threatening knight takes e5, which is why
I
she
think
went e4.
knight a4 is a bit early because you could have just played this move to keep control here. Now you allow e4. I'm not sure if e4 works, but it was obviously gonna be played.
So I'm guessing knight d2 is the follow-up after pawn takes. I mean, you could consider maybe even sacrifice. Yeah, knight e5 is a move.
I think it's extremely strange to put up such a Maroczy bind position and then immediately go ahead and like play for tactics, because I think you have such a nice positional advantage in the Maroczy bind at times. To go immediately and just try for tactics is, I feel like, not the right choice.
Yeah, and now the pawn on e4 is suddenly very weak. I mean, after knight,
I like knight e5. Just saying, I'm taking this pawn anyways. I just need some activity so as to not get mated, I guess.
So, for example, on knight takes e5, bishop takes e5, you're suddenly threatening c7 and also e4. So white is going to win material if you take there. But what else are you supposed to do? Maybe bishop f5? Because d4 is high.
The thing is, though, if bishop f5, you don't lose the pawn immediately. But yeah, I was gonna say that if you allow knight takes c6, b takes c6, rook c1, this pawn is dropping. You're not saving that pawn. So she's trying knight d4 now. I think that's a very sensible move. You gotta just throw your stuff up there, and you're introducing the idea bishop f6.
So I would probably take on e4.
Take on e4 and then knight d3. I think is the solid way to play. Bishop f6 is, I suppose, the only real option, but after knight d3, I think white is a very healthy extra pawn up. The rook is gonna be brought to c1. The knight is brought here, and I mean, basically, you spend a couple of moves. You move your knight 3 times in the opening, and then you play a couple of moves with pawns just to get this Maroczy bind structure. I think it is a very poor idea to just go ahead and just push it forward without really having a clear follow-up. And I think she's definitely paying for this now, because this should not happen from this position.
So rook b8, trying to be able to move the c8 bishop without hanging b7. And now the c7 knight is under fire. Will he? Maybe she will go knight b5 and try to go knight c3.
Yeah, that's an option for sure. That's probably a good option, because what else, really?
Yeah, I mean, knight e6 does kind of control the c5 square, but
yeah, I mean, 96 is just a bad move. It was just, I didn't really even realize that there was a possibility to go here. 96, white goes for something like bishop d5, and then you can also include exchanges. So yeah, knight b5 played. this is the only shot, but I doubt that this could be enough. For example, one idea could be to just start bringing the stuff into the position down with knight c5, bishop d5, knight to e6. You could consider knight f4 as well, just trying to place the knight on a good square and see what happens. You could go for the e6 square. But obviously, like, you still have to win with white. It's not over yet, and if we know anything from this type of tournament, is that everything can happen. A winning position does not at all mean that the game is won.
Yeah.
Kind of the opposite, honestly. So I like the move rook c5 though, trying to force this knight to make a decision.
If you go to c3, I guess you're kind of forced to, in a sense.
I mean,
you go there anyway,
you could also play a6.
Knight
or
e6
knight
is an
e6.
option, I guess. And now, where do you develop the c8 bishop is the question. Do you go bishop f5 perhaps?
Bishop f5 is a bit risky because obviously that bishop is in the fire line of the rook. You could see a move like rook d5 being a bit annoying at some point.
Will we see perhaps I mean, I'm not b5, that's very aggressive, or maybe
I like it because now the rook was kind of occupying a bad place, and now at least you force the knight here. The problem is the knight is gonna move, and then this knight is gonna come into the sweet spot on d3. So unfortunately, it doesn't quite work out, but it was definitely something worth trying.
Yeah, and now she's going to c3 anyway.
Yeah, but now it's a bit different because now the knight is not.
But you have to look at, for example, rook c1. There's g5, right? So there's a lot of pressure on e2.
Yeah, and now there's time trouble. So you know.
Yeah, I mean, look at the mount. Like, she's just putting so much pressure on e2. Next move, I mean, you're not gonna go g5 because f6 is hanging. But
and now
let's say bishop g5.
She's been given a2 as well, when this knight is completely out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, suddenly she's kind of the one attacking here now.
Knight d5 though. Rook a6 is a very strange move.
But now knight c2 is the threat, and you're losing.
Yeah, that's over. Wow, rook a6 was a horrible move. Knight d5 is probably still winning for white. Or actually, you give back the pawn, so you're not winning. Yeah. It was like I said.
Yeah.
You should be losing because
that's the. Oh, you haven't.
As long as you're losing, you tend to win the game. So maybe we'll see a turn. Okay, we will not see a turn.
Knight b2 you can take with a bishop.
So Martyna comes back from a really poor handling of the Maroczy bind. She comes back and she wins this game.
So now, Daniel has to not lose if he wants to be still in the match. Okay, I think.
Do you think they believe that it's over?
No, I don't think so.
No, they don't.
Okay, flip board.
Yeah. So basically, if Martyna wins with the white pieces, it went from Martyna being under serious pressure to Martyna having the chance to win the match.
Yeah.
Now, and are we gonna see? Yeah, we're gonna see another open Sicilian. She does not want any more of the Alpines, even though she did get good positions from it. And now, Najdorf. So e5.
She opts for this knight b3 instead of knight d2 followed by f4, as she did as black.
h3, that's a very unique move. I mean, I know that the move f3 by far is the main try here. I even know that you can play the move queen d2 here, which I faced recently with the idea of meeting knight g4 with g3. That's something. Whoa, wait. Did she go h3 and f4? Wow. But she's definitely in. I guess this is playable because both players seem to be sort of in theory, and it looks kind of. And Daniel playing extremely quickly as well, but I cannot believe this could be good for white. Like this. It makes no sense to my eyes. Like. But still, it's sort of sensible, but it's sort
You've
of.
still got this d5 square a lot under control.
I sort of dislike this move because I feel like you needed the control over making a move like bishop g5. No, I think. Okay, but black is sort of going here. White is gonna have to play the move knight d5 at some point. Black is gonna play the move knight b6 next, I think, generating a huge initiative on the queen side.
You have to look out for bishop takes b5 here.
Yeah, but bishop takes b5 is not a threat.
Not really, because d6 is under a lot of pressure. So
I think knight b6 or potentially b4.
What was the point of queen g2? Was it to like prophylaxis against bishop c4, or?
I think her idea could be bishop e2 and then to be able to play h4.
Right.
Because you need sort of, or g5. Yeah, g5 is a good move. You need to start pushing here. Now black has to do something on the queen side, and he goes
knight
b4.
d5 is pretty much forced,
and he has to take it, and a5. But actually, this is a horrible. a5 is not actually a good move because now the knight is able to jump.
Yeah.
So actually, I think this is really bad news for black. This is every knight of player is taught to avoid this knight d4 knight f5 maneuver, because if the knight gets there, then and you don't have anything substantial on the queen side, you are in really, really bad shape.
Yeah. So the idea is not to put pressure on c2. Will we see knight d4 here?
I think h4. Yeah, h4 play. You're just gonna move here. As soon as black tries to harass you over here, you're just gonna.
Of course.
You're just gonna jump. What do you do with black here?
You can play knight c5 followed by knight a4 stuff.
Yeah, something like that. Knight c5, knight a4, knight c3.
And whenever the white knight goes to f5, you can move back with the bishop to f8.
Yeah, that's definitely the way to go.
But now we've got knight d4 here. This looks quite decent for white.
Yeah, a5 is sort of almost the loss of a tempo because it doesn't really bring you anything. Unless you go for b3 though, I suppose.
Yeah, so knight f5, we've got bishop f8.
Yeah, maybe you want to keep this knight on d4 for the moment to provide some control over these two key squares.
Yeah, and you've also got ideas to go like knight h5 or potentially,
knight e6.
Yeah, knight e6, or maybe just taking control over the c6 square. I don't know how, but bishop c5, bishop d5 or something.
I think h5, g6, knight e6 should be the right idea. I think b3 on anything is the black idea.
Yeah.
Black is just, I mean, if you go knight f5, I go bishop f8. On any other move, I play b3. That's sort of my approach.
b3?
I think you should, yeah, because even if it loses a pawn, you should definitely do that. Because what else?
Yeah.
You could, I suppose, you could try a3, trying to say that I can mate you, but
bishop c1 is always a defensive
resource available. It better be mate, because if it's not mate, you're getting mated.
Exactly.
And white is gonna play g6 next move, and then she's gonna use this e6 square. And I mean, these three pieces, these four pieces are mating. Exactly. If given enough time, they will mate. So you gotta mate first with black.
And you also have to win as black. I mean, okay, draw is playable, but you'd rather want to win because then you've still got winning chances in the match. Remember, if Martyna wins this game, she is going to win the entire match, 4.5 to 2.5.
Yeah, that's true. And I think she has very good chances of it, unless Daniel plays b3 and he goes b3 and a3. This is obviously the way to go, but now at least you always have some ideas connected with these types of moves. One move could be to play bishop f8, trying to do the same thing with black. That would definitely
be... But that would also kind of allow white to go knight e6, but perhaps that's inevitable.
Knight e6 is never possible with the queen c2 idea. Which is good, but the problem for Daniel is 12 seconds against 2 minutes.
Yeah.
In this position as well, that is not something you want. And now Martyna is doing the exact same thing that Daniel did, and
knight a4. Whoa. So I guess the idea is going to be something along the lines of perhaps knight c3 and then take on a3.
Yeah, he's just saying I'm gonna try my best to create something here,
but now knight e6.
Knight e6 is still not an idea. You should remember that because of that.
You can maybe go bishop d3 or something like that.
Yeah, now after knight takes, I think bishop d3 is deciding.
Bishop d3, I mean, you've got...
Yeah, and bishop d3 played. Because knight e6, yeah, he has to go knight c3, but I doubt that this can be enough. It looks highly questionable. I mean... This looks so questionable.
I'm not sure if... I mean, the thing is, the queen on c3
the thing is that, like, yeah, if you play knight f5, bishop f6, and that is mate.
Yeah.
Actually, that's more scary than I thought.
True.
Because you would love to play just knight f5.
Maybe you can just play defensively with queen b2. Exactly.
Yeah, she's played
queen b2. And
bishop goes to f6.
Right.
Actually, that is... close to winning the knight back because you have also rook a4.
But you can just return with the bishop, no?
But then you could go rook e8.
But let's say, I mean,
perhaps you
there's
should
quite a
play
lot
the
of
bishop to b5 here.
Oh yeah, like that.
To prevent rook a4. She goes bishop e3.
But now bishop b5.
Yeah, knight e5 is not a accurate
But
move.
you are kind of planning knight f3, I guess. So
But
now rook e4.
Yeah, it's too slow. You should have gone, I think, rook to e8 here because that would rook e1 is not a possibility.
But okay, this.
Yeah, let's check what's happened. Now the pin is broken and the knight goes to b5.
By rook e4.
She probably missed that, but rook h3 is there.
Yeah. It looks like it's going to be a white win here, especially considering the time and white's just winning.
Yeah, and considering that white is a piece up.
Yeah.
But I mean, okay, no. I mean, yeah, there's just it's not gonna happen here and then that's the final.
Okay. Well played, guys. So should we ask them for an interview, perhaps?
Yeah, we should if they are willing to.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Well played. All right, wait.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So I can start by asking you, Martyna, what were your thoughts about the match? We thought you were in control in the beginning, and then we were not so sure anymore towards the end.
Yeah, I would say the same. At first, I thought like that was a very cool match, and I think that there was many chances that were like unused, and that's what actually was the most important thing of the match. I wouldn't say that one side was much stronger.
Yeah, I mean there were a lot of twists and turns in the games. Oftentimes, the losing side would always be the one on top somehow. So that was kind of funny.
Yeah, we can ask Daniel as well. What were your thoughts?
I don't know. I played like pretty badly, I guess.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, it was very exciting.
Yeah, I guess the moment where you were both tied at, I guess it was game 6 or something. I guess that was a pretty important game. We thought that you would maybe we thought that you were having a good position there, Daniel, and then you lost.
Like, what was the opening or something like that?
Yeah, same.
Game?
I think it was the English Meroxy Bind when she played f5 e4.
Oh, yes.
Oh my god.
I had pawn up.
Yeah, and then.
But also, in the first game, I feel like I was totally winning, and then I just missed.
Yeah, but the king e8, is there even anything for white? Or
I wouldn't say. It was just like so much panic there, like 10 seconds and just to do something because this position was so bad.
Like, I feel we both aren't used to playing blitz, I guess. It's it looks like chaos.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for playing, and we'll see you in your last match.